Well, it's good to be home. Welcome back from the feast, everybody. When I say it is good to be home, I sincerely mean that it is good to be home. I have never been anywhere more different in my life. I'm very grateful to have gone, and we're going to talk about it a little bit today. When I told people that I was going to India, following my dad on his crusade to Asia, a few people had very different reactions to my going there. I was told by several people that it would be very different and very strange. I was told it would be very uncomfortable, yet life-changing. I was told that I would have to always be on guard and watch out for the people that I was with, and I was told that I would be hot. And all of that was true. That is all 100% true. I was also told by other people that I would learn a lot and that India had many incredibly beautiful things about it. I was told that the brethren would be enjoyable to meet and that they would be excited to meet me. And I was told that there would be really good opportunities to serve. And all of that, thankfully, was also true. But whether I got excited, positive expectations from people, or nervous and slightly negative ones, one thing was very common about what many of you told me before I left. Many of you said, "I can't wait to see what you come back and decide to talk about in your messages after a trip like that." And I think a lot of people, after I went to Israel a couple of years ago, just liked the sermon I gave about being hot because it made fun of me all the time, and it was pretty entertaining. So I think many of you saw it as an opportunity for a part 2 where Micah makes a fool of himself, sweating profusely. But the pressure was on. As soon as I left here on my last Sabbath in Columbus, I was like, okay, I've been told this several times. This message has to be good when I come back. And so I kept bouncing between two ideas. One of, Micah, don't force it. Just enjoy the trip. Notice what you notice. Pray about it. And let God lead you to things. Paired with other thoughts of, I got to give something good. Think, Micah, think. You stupid idiot. Come on, come up with something that people will enjoy. And this is what ended up coming to mind as I kind of mixed those two thoughts of trying to think of what revelations am I having here? What interesting thoughts am I having while I'm in one of the craziest places I've ever been? But also trying to let God lead that and not force any message by any means. And you'll have to forgive me, there's going to be a lot of, I am back, I've been back for a few days now, but it was so different, the experience was so different that the thoughts are going to just kind of keep coming for a while. I don't think I can really boil them all down and give everything to you in a succinct way because there was just so much. But this was one thought that I had that I thought was particularly relevant, not only to my trip to India, but also as it pertains to our time now after the Feast of Tabernacles. In the story of the Exodus, God gathers his people together and he leads them out of Egypt. We're familiar with this story. Egypt, in a way, acts kind of like an incubator for God's people. They go into the land, maybe a few hundred. I think it's 120 people maybe. I forget the exact number. But they go in hundreds and millions come out. And God has himself a nation now. He has a people. But on their way from Egypt, it's not exactly an easy extraction. These people don't know how to move together. They don't know what freedom looks like for them. They need organization as they navigate new terrain. They are facing an oncoming enemy. They need organization for facing the obstacles in front of them. They need eyes in the backs of their heads as they leave Egypt in flight. They need guidance and they need leadership and they need protection. And of course, God uses Moses for some of this, right? But also, we're told something in Exodus 13 that I'd like to draw our attention to. If you'll turn with me to Exodus 13. So Israel has a lot of needs as they kind of find their legs underneath them in becoming this new nation that has its own identity. And in Exodus 13:21, even though God does use Moses to facilitate some of that organization and leadership, it also says this in verse 21, "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people." So the people have something to keep their sights set on, to tell them when to move. They have something to follow. They're not just wandering aimlessly. They're not just hoping Moses knows the way. They are following a pillar in the wilderness through the sea out of Egypt. Turn maybe one page over to Exodus 14. We'll read something else about this pillar. Exodus 14, starting in verse 19, says, "Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night, without one coming near the other all night." This last verse is kind of confusing, and a lot of different translations have phrased it very different ways. But essentially what's happening is that this pillar of cloud and of fire that stands in front of Israel moves between Israel and the coming army of Egypt and becomes darkness to the Egyptian army while simultaneously being light to Israel. That's kind of how the translations agree on what's going on here. But the important part that I like to focus on is that this pillar, which we discover is the angel of God, or God himself, moves from in front of Israel, guiding and directing them, to behind Israel, protecting them and shielding them. Now turn with me to Psalm 139. Psalm 139, we're going to start reading in verse 1. This is a psalm of David. It says, "To the choir master," or to the chief musician. Some commentaries actually say that when that's written, it could be an indication that this was like written as an offering to God, and that God is the choir master, or God is the chief musician. I do believe also that the temple had one, but I think it's interesting that there could be select psalms that David wrote as specific offerings to God, like they're specific prayers that he's giving up to him. In Psalm 139, verse 1, it says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether." Verse 5, "You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it." When I read verse 5, I get almost uncomfortable at first. You hem me in. This feels restrictive. Like, yes, I know logically that God knows everything about me. I know that he knows me intimately and there's nothing hidden from him. But this hemming in feels like it's a way in which God is trapping me. And I don't like that. I want freedom to move. But you hem me in feels to me like, okay, God, give me a little bit of space here. Give me some breathing room. But David doesn't see it this way. He says, "You lay your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it." What David is saying here is, I can't even grasp how wonderful it is that you hem me in. So maybe David is thinking in battle terms, like a king that's surrounded by his armies. Nothing from the opposing force gets to the king without his guard knowing about it first. Have you ever seen those like ancient or medieval war movies? There's two very orderly lines of armies marching towards each other. It's clear at first. There's this side versus this side. But after they clash, it's just complete madness. It's mud and screaming and blood and chaos everywhere. So in these wars, they have bannermen who are meant to keep some semblance of order. When you see your banner moving in retreat, you know, okay, my people are moving in retreat. I go where the banner goes. When you see your banner pushing forward, you know we're all pushing forward. If you can't hear some of the commands given to you from leagues away, but you can see your banner, at least you know the direction to go. You can do your most effective fighting in this chaos if you kind of know where you are and where your people are. To be shoulder to shoulder with your own men means that you have people watching your back and your sides, which allows you to focus more heavily on what's attacking you from the front. If you're a king, you're probably surrounded by people. They'd even cry out, "Rally to the king," if there was a breach in the king's guard, because the king must be hemmed in at all times. To keep the king safest, he would need people behind him watching his back and in front of him pushing the fight forward and protecting his front. And this would be consistent with what we see God doing in the Exodus story as well. God goes before Israel as a pillar of cloud and fire, leading them and guiding them. But God also moves behind Israel to protect them where they're weakest. God goes before David, but God also stands behind David. God hems him in. Now let's fast forward in Israel's history to the time after the exile prophesied about by Isaiah and some of the other prophets. Now Isaiah lived before the Babylonian exile about 100 years. And then the end of that exile would be about 70 years after that. So Isaiah is prophesying about this 170 years before it takes place. But in Isaiah 52, if you'll turn with me there, we'll read something interesting about what he says. Isaiah 52, and we're going to start reading in verse 11. It says this, "Depart, depart, go out from there, touch no unclean thing. Go out from the midst of her, purify yourselves, you who bear the vessels of the Lord. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go in flight. For the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard." It is very common for the escape from Babylon to be compared to the Exodus in the Old Testament writings. I actually think we have a comparison here. Most commentaries point that this is contrasting the Exodus story. Whereas in Exodus, they were fleeing from Egypt in great haste. This time around, God says, "I'm not going to make you flee. You're going to walk out with some dignity, and I'm going to guard you on your way out." But there is still that similarity where God's going to stand in front of and behind his people, leading them and protecting them. Ezra and Nehemiah both write about their journeys back to the Promised Land, and in their prayers to God, it's very evident that they see themselves living a second type of Exodus. In Nehemiah 1, I'm just going to read it. You don't have to turn there. Nehemiah 1, verse 8, it says, "Remember the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying," this is Nehemiah in a prayer to God, and he's hearkening back to Moses, saying, "Remember that time. You said, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the peoples. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them, though your outcasts are in the uttermost parts of heaven, from there I will gather them and bring them to the place that I have chosen to make my name dwell there. They are your servants and your people, whom you have redeemed by your great power and by your strong hand." So Nehemiah is saying to God, "God, you told us this was going to happen. It has. But you led your people out of Egypt in strength, and you can do the same for us now. You can repeat what you've done initially as we return from another exile." Imagine for a second how nervous Nehemiah might have been as he recounts the story of Moses, remembering that he was tasked with going to Pharaoh and all the things that happened there, where Pharaoh had his heart hardened, where the plagues had to come. And Nehemiah realizes, I am also in a position to go to the king and petition for my people. And he does. He goes forward. Now this time it goes a little bit differently. The king actually willingly lets Nehemiah go back to the Promised Land. But like I said, this last section of Isaiah that we just read through, if he had remembered it, that might have been very encouraging for Nehemiah. Things are going to be different this time around. The last words in this section show the similarity to Israel's time leaving Egypt. The Lord, Yahweh, will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. So we can see this pattern starting to form of God standing both before and behind his people, leading them and protecting them at the same time. Why is this important? Why is this something that is noted so often throughout Scripture about God? Why was this a thought that I felt I needed to share with you today? And how on earth does this relate to my trip in India? That's probably the thought in your heads right now. That's the thought in my head anyways, as I began to write this in sections. Well, I do want to tell you a story about something that happened when we were in India. We left the feast to take a little bit of an extended trip to Mumbai, India. Pretty much as soon as we left the feast, like as soon as we left the hotel, everything started falling apart. In funny ways, like over time, they will be hilarious. Right now, I'm still living in the shock of them a little bit. But we left Mumbai. We get our driver to take us from Agra. Sorry, we didn't leave Mumbai. We left Agra to go to Delhi, which is farther north. And we get in the car, and our driver is nearing 1,000 years old. In my view, anyways. He wasn't probably that old, but he felt very old, spoke some English, but, the English there is pretty broken. And the first thing that happened, first of all, we're glad to be in a car. The fact that a car comes and picks us up at the hotel and knows where to go, that was a blessing. But then, a few miles down the road, he pulls off on the side of the road, no explanation at all. There are cars everywhere. The streets are getting busier and busier, and we just want to get to where we're going. But he pulls over on the side of the road and gets out of the car. And we notice, okay, we're at like some sort of, it doesn't look like a gas station, but some sort of gas station that has air for tires and stuff. So I think he is putting air in our tires because they're kind of off to my side, filling up the tires. Then he looks at me and motions for us to get out of the car. And I just shake my head no. I'm not getting out of the car. I don't know where I am. You've not communicated anything to us. We are in the middle of a busy, busy place with people just glaring at us through the windows. There's no chance I'm getting out of this car. Then they start to jack the car up with all of us in it. And I think they're replacing the tire or filling the tire. We're not really sure, but we just know we're up in the air now as something is happening to the car. He gets back in the car. We go on our way. Finally, we make it out of Agra. And my girlfriend Serenity's in the back. She starts to get car sick because there's potholes everywhere and there are no lines that mean anything in Indian traffic. So we're just kind of going everywhere. So we're trying to get her some Dramamine in the back, trying to make sure we're going to the right place, looking at the signs and trying to discern where we are. But finally we get on the highway. It's like, okay, good. We know generally this looks similar to the way here. So this is good. We've also been told at some point that there are two ways to get between Agra and Delhi. One way takes about 6 hours and does not take the expressway, and one way is about 4 hours and does. So once we got on the expressway, I'm like, okay, great. I know what to expect now. This is the quicker route. We're going to make it. Then he pulls over on the side of the road again. Doesn't really say much. I don't know where he's going, but he comes back with a snack. We go along the road a little bit more. He stops again. I'm going to get some water. Do you want anything? No, we don't want anything. We just want to get to our hotel, please. 3 or 4 times he pulls over on the side of the road to get gas, to get water, to get a snack, and he doesn't really say a lot to us. So we're just like, we feel like you should have done this before picking us up. But he didn't. Finally, we go for a decent stretch on the road, and he says, oh, the Lord Krishna was born in this city we're going near. Do you want to see it? No, we don't want to see it. We just want to get to where we're going. We're trying to make polite conversation, or at least my dad is from the front seat. But also we're just like, please, can we not stop anymore? This is a long drive already. We just want to get where we're going. It's already going to be like 11 o'clock when we pull into our hotel. Finally, we get closer to Delhi. And it felt kind of nice, actually. We're like, okay, like we see our destination. We're maybe 40 minutes from there. And that's when he starts making wrong turns. And I have my GPS up because I just want to make sure we're going the right way and that I know where we're going to. Trying to tell the girls how long we have to go because they're getting antsy in the car. And he makes a wrong turn. So I said, I think that was the wrong turn. He says, yes, I know. And so he's His GPS reloads. He's getting ready to turn back around. Okay, fine. He knows. Not a big deal. Then he makes another wrong turn. I said, hey, that's a wrong turn. He says, no. I'm like, oh, now he doesn't even know where he's going at all. So eventually, after like 3 wrong turns, I just put my phone in the front seat and I say, this is where we're going. And me and my dad are trying to turn him physically, pointing in the directions that we need to go. It's this way. He says, no. It's this way. Turn now. He looks at my phone and on the bottom, at one point it says, you're 3 minutes away. He says, this says I don't turn for 3 kilometers. I said, that's minutes. That's the time. He doesn't even know how to work the phone. I was getting very frustrated. We've just been gone from the feast for hours now, and it's already not looking good. All of us are very frustrated. Finally, we make it there. I did tip him. I was not kind about it, but I did tip him. And we get to our hotel. We have maybe 6 hours to sleep until we need to get up and get on the plane to go to Mumbai. So we sleep that night. It was a small room, but we're glad for a bed. It was much better than the first hotel we had stayed at in Delhi. We get on the plane the next morning. Okay, things are looking good now. We made it to the airport. We have plenty of time to get to our gate. We can even look around, get coffee, have water that doesn't kill me. Like we're feeling pretty good about this. And we also heard Mumbai is very modern, very forward, very progressive, very Americanized. So we're excited about that too. A little bit of creature comforts we're going back to. So that sounds good. Then we get to the airport, and suddenly it becomes apparent there are multiple opinions on where we should go and how we should get there. The girls are hungry. My dad would like to go right now because we have a tour scheduled for that evening that he doesn't want to be late for. More than fair. Both things are valid. They're hungry. They need to eat. We don't want to be late. Both things are true. So I'm thinking, how do we do both of these things? So I'm trying to make sure an Uber can get us and get them food. Kate burns her hand on hot chocolate, like the cup fell apart in her hands and scalded her really, really bad. So now we got that to worry about. And it's just chaos again. We can feel the chaos start to creep in a little bit. But we do. We get to the taxi or to the Uber, which was good. We had no money, very, very little money. We got to the money exchange, and for $200, it would cost like $270. And it was like, there's no way. We're not paying that crazy rate. So whatever cash we have in our wallets at the time, that's what we have for Mumbai, and hopefully places take card. But we get in the Uber, get to our hotel, and immediately we're in rooms down the hall from each other, which I don't personally care about, but the girls were a little bit nervous about. Well, what if something happens in the night? We couldn't get to you right away. We're not right there. And my dad's like, what does this matter? Well, I don't get it. And the girls are like, well, you don't have to get it, but I'm scared and it's freaking me out. So I'm sitting here in the middle thinking, I don't understand the fear, but I can't say it's not a legitimate fear because I don't know. So then I have to go downstairs, say, can you put rooms together? Can you do all this? No, we can't do that. I go back upstairs. They say, if you make a bigger deal about it, they'll give you the rooms you want. Well, I don't really want to make a bigger deal about it because I'm not afraid of this. But I go back downstairs, try and get it sorted. Doesn't work out. Finally, it's time to go. We have to leave. We're leaving the hotel, and we're told that it's a 10-minute walk from our hotel to the place that our tour is supposed to start. It's a guided street food tour that we're told is very safe, that all the food places have been very vetted and everything like that. So we're tired, we're a little bit grumpy, a little bit frustrated and not understanding where each other's coming from. But at least now we have one goal. We have one place we're all trying to get to. So we start walking on the street. I have the GPS. I'm trying to stay in front, but also keep people behind me because there's people just everywhere, just hundreds and hundreds of people going all different ways. And we're a little bit late. We're running a little bit behind. So we're walking at a pretty good pace. And then my dad falls right behind us onto the ground. The ground is very uneven. And so he fell. His hand starts to swell up really big. And he says, it only hurts when I breathe. And I'm like, oh no. So he's busted a rib as well. But I'm thinking, okay, we are in shambles right now. Kate's hand is all scorched up. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with anything anymore. He's all bruised up and hurting. Serenity was doing pretty good at that point, so that was nice. Do we really keep going to this tour? Do we really, we don't even 100% know how long this tour is supposed to be. It sounds exciting, it sounds like it could be fun, but could it also not drive us into the madness that clearly we're trying to be driven into right now? We push forward. We make it to the tour. The lady meets us, and at first, things are looking pretty good. It's hot, it's a little bit sweaty, but at least we're in a place that we're sitting down, and a woman is about to bring us food. That was a good sign. She brings us this giant, huge sandwich-looking thing and says, we have 15 stops. I'm like, this is like the size of half my head. I can't eat 15 of these things, especially in the heat. So we start talking amongst ourselves can we make this whole tour? Can we really go through with this whole thing? Already by stop 1, we're having doubts. But the food was good. We're at least somewhere where someone knows where we are, and they're guiding us somewhere where they know where they're going. So we push forward. Each stop is maybe a quarter of a mile or less in between each stop. So it's not just I'm going to go to this little stop, have a little food. Now I'm going to go to this one, have a little food. No, it's not like that. It's I'm going to have this one, then take a trek through the city to go to the next one. So we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into Mumbai, where we have no clue where we are, farther and farther and farther away from our hotel. At one point, we get on a train, and it just takes us. We don't exactly know where, but we're going. Now, this whole time, we're assuming that this person is going to bring us back where we started. 80% of the way through the tour, she tells us, no, you can get an Uber back from where we stop. Okay, well, I hope we can get an Uber back, because as the night goes on, the traffic is just piling up and up and up. It's getting busier and busier, more cramped. We find out that Diwali is coming up, which is this huge, it's like Christmas, Halloween, and Valentine's Day all mixed into one for Indian people. It's a huge festival time. So people are preparing for that festival, and there's also a jewelry festival in town that's heading out of town. So there's a lot of traffic as they kind of switch over. And it's getting busier. So I try to politely ask this lady, I'm like, we are full, we are tired. At this point, Kate and my dad have stopped eating. They're like, no, I don't want anything else. Serenity and I are holding down the fort. She is a toothpick, but she ate every single thing on that tour. Even the things where we thought, everything in my body is screaming at me, telling me, do not put that in your mouth. You saw his finger go in it and spread the stuff around. But we did it because this lady tells us it's going to be safe. And she acted almost like she'd be a little offended if we didn't try something. So it's a little uncomfortable. And I try and politely go to her and say, hey, we're getting full. What if we can't finish? And she just looks at me and says, you will, and keeps on going. So I don't know how to extract us from this process at all. Finally, we get to a point where she says, we only have 2 stops left. That was a wonderful thing to hear. And she says, our next stop, it's air-conditioned. It's a restaurant that's up above the streets, and it'll be really, really nice. So we're excited about that because it's hot. So we go to the place, and she says, just be careful when you go in. The ceiling is low in there. Okay, we can handle that. We go up some steep stairs, and I heard that the ceiling was low. I'm trying to make sure that my dad doesn't fall down the stairs because he's beat up, really beat up, but still pushing. He didn't complain, at all. So I'm trying to make sure he gets up the stairs okay, and I didn't see that the doorway is lower than the ceiling inside. So I can see the ceiling, that's low, but the doorway is about here on me. And I cracked my head so good, you could hear it. I'm surprised the streets didn't stop for a minute because it hurt bad. Some words happened. I'm not going to say which ones, but I was very, very frustrated. We get in, we sit down. My dad can barely sit down at this point because his ribs are hurting, so every time he moves, it's just and you can see it. And the tour guide's like, I don't know what to do, but we're going to keep going now. And I sit down in this booth, and I'm just staring straight ahead. Serenity's like, are you feeling dizzy? Do you need me to check your pupils? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just I have no capacity left within my body. All of us are spent 100%. The last stop we went to, that place was actually nice because there was air conditioning. But from that point, we went to one more stop where they gave us a leaf with something spread on it with some guy's finger. And that was, I thought I had nothing left. And then I saw this guy put stuff on a leaf. And I thought, okay, never mind. This is the last bit that I have to give. We're finally done. The tour is over. She says, thank you very much. And she disappears into the night. We are just on a street in Mumbai with no knowledge of how to get from where we are to where we would like to be. She does tell us before she leaves, if you walk about 100 meters that way and turn right onto this street and then cross over somewhere, that should be a good place to get an Uber from. We think we followed those directions okay, but that only led us to busier streets. So we're sitting there with maybe 3 square feet of room to not get run over by motorbikes and cars, standing there as my dad tries to book an Uber, all huddled together. He books an Uber. 2 seconds later, that Uber is not coming. They will not come on this street that is it's gridlock traffic. Cars coming from every direction. He books another one, canceled. He books another one, canceled. Well, maybe we're in the wrong spot. Maybe we need to be more up on that street. One of the girls says, no, I think maybe this street. I don't know what street. I've never been here before, but there's a lot of opinions starting to come out about how we should start proceeding from here. I say, why don't we take a taxi? One of the girls says, no, we can't take a taxi. We'll die. They'll kill us in a taxi. I've heard stories about them killing people in taxis. There's no way I'm getting in a taxi. Okay, my dad says, I don't care if I have to wait here till midnight. I'm getting an Uber. Okay, that's an option. So he's still booking Ubers. I'm still looking for taxis. I'm still trying to, every maybe 10 minutes, cars start beeping at us and we realize this is not the place to stand anymore and we have to migrate somewhere else. Someone says, why don't we ask the police? Another person says, no, don't ask the police. They're not trustworthy here. I don't know. I truly have no idea how to proceed from this spot. Someone says, call the hotel. Someone says, that's a stupid idea. What's the hotel going to do? I kind of agree, but also I don't know what else to do. This is all happening, even if there was no one else around. This happening is stressful. To have different opinions on how to move forward, that's a stressful thing. To be in a place that you don't know, that's a stressful thing. To have millions of people descending on you from every direction, all honking their horns, maybe at you, maybe at someone else, that is next level stimulation that would just fry anybody's brains. And that's what we're in right now. Eventually, I snap. I'm not snap like angry. I snap like, we can't stand here anymore. I have nothing left in me. We're all dying here. And I go up to a taxi and I say, can you take us to this address? And he looks at me and says, no. And he keeps driving. What do you mean, no? Like, I have money. I'll pay you. I find another taxi. This one, much smaller. Of course, that one can take us. So we all clown car into the back of a little, I don't know. It wasn't, I would say the inside was maybe like a Volkswagen Beetle looking thing. It was really small, kind of like a hatchback dome little thing. So we're all in the back. My dad's in the front. This guy, the only way that I know that he knows where we're going is that I said, we're going to the Fort District Residency Fort Hotel. And he looked at me and said, Residency Fort Hotel. And I said, yes. And then we got in his car. So I'm hoping that means we're on the same page. But that's about all the English that he speaks. So we're just praying. We're in the back seat praying. My dad is just holding himself together, trying not to be hurt. He's grimacing, so the driver's looking over at him. One of the girls says, do we need to stop? No, we don't need to stop. If we stop, we die. That's what happens from this point. He starts driving us. He takes a wrong turn. Okay, maybe this guy knows a shortcut that I don't know. I'm on my GPS again, and I see, okay, it re-navigated. It looks like he actually saved us some time. Maybe that was a good move. He needs to take a right in about 100 meters. That road is closed. He keeps on going straight. That road is closed. He keeps on going straight. That road is closed. But eventually, this wonderful, kind man got us back to our hotel. And that was the most insane thing I've ever been through in my entire life. That was one of the craziest experiences I've ever had. And one of the girls said, I have never feared for my life until that moment. I didn't quite fear for my life, but it was a moment where all of us were just stuck. We didn't know whether to go this way or that way. We didn't know if this direction was going to make more sense than that direction. We didn't know if waiting for an Uber made sense. We didn't know if maybe the traffic dies down at a certain point and we should just wait it out. We had no idea and no ability to choose a direction that we knew for a fact would lead us to where we wanted to go. We were just hoping and praying and choosing. But the thing that really struck me in the middle of all of this chaos was the question that kept coming to my mind, where do I stand? Not just in the midst of all these people, but as I'm trying to guide four of us through a crowd that you only have this much room. Like there were several times I thought my foot is going to get run over by a car because the lane is right there. And they don't care about lanes. So very easily bad things could have happened. And we have to go single file through the lines, but I just keep thinking, where do I stand? If I stand in front, there are good things, but also bad things. If I stand behind, good things, bad things. From the front of the group, I can lead. I can hold hands with those behind me. I can create a little bit of a wake because people have to move for me. You know, if I'm occupying the space, the Indian people are going to have to move. And they can stand safely behind me at least. I'm tall, I'm big, they can see me, they can follow me. They have something to look at above the crowd of people to say that's the direction that our group is going. So that sounds pretty good. However, if I stand in front, I can't see anybody behind me. I can't look back for half a second. I have to pick a spot and go to it. That's it. So if anyone falls behind, if anyone breaks contact, if anyone gets separated, if someone gets snatched by someone, I can't tell. I cannot tell who is safe. My eyes have to be 100% locked into what's in front of me and just hope that whoever's behind me is okay. However, if I stand behind the group, I can call out directions from the back. I have a wider view. I can see things coming and going. I can see the entirety of the scene, and I can protect from behind so that nobody can come up and push someone out of the way or grab someone where they shouldn't be going, or I can just have an eye on things. But I can't guide forward. There's no direction that I can really give that's forceful, that actually leads anywhere. If I stand back, I can be vigilant and watchful, but I cannot lead. I have my eye on people that I care about, that are in front of me, but I have no ability to pull them to anywhere safe. We did make it through, but that question kept running through my mind the entire time. With every turn we made, every stop we made, every direction we decided to go, the thought I had was, where do I stand, in front or behind? And it was so frustrating. I think it was frustrating for all of us, but what made me just go insane was that I had no clue what to do or where to go. I was completely lost, completely helpless. Which suggestions make sense? Which ones don't? None of us have been here, but people are speaking with authority as if they know exactly what the right move is. That, on top of everything overwhelming about the city and the people, it was just too much. In this moment, I felt like a little baby Moses trying to lead 4 people instead of a few million to safety. And I had this profound gratitude to God and a little bit of jealousy that He, at the same time, can stand before us and behind us. That was what I wanted in that moment, to stand in front as well as in back. That message and the importance of it clicked in that moment, surrounded by a sea of people, feeling very much in hostile territory, far from our destination. It was like a 40-minute drive to get there. I don't know how long to walk. I wanted to stand behind, and I wanted to stand before for that journey. And I was grateful that God says that He can. He can do both of those things. So what do we take from this for our lives now? It's not every day that we are in the Middle East with Pharaoh's army bearing down on us as we walk through a sea. It's not every day that we are at war with our enemies like David was at certain times, and we feel protected by our guard. It's not every day that we're trying to leave Babylon and find out the best way to do that safely with all the vessels of God in tow. And it's not every day that we're lost in Mumbai during peak holiday season trying to make our way back to our hotel. So what does this mean for us? I think it's obviously great that God is watching out for us. It's great that he says he can be in two places at once and more. It's great that he can guide us and protect us at the same time. But what do we do with this information? Turn with me to Numbers chapter 10. We're going to read something about the formation of Israel as they traveled. It's really interesting telling these stories with my dad in the audience because I'm sure there's things that I'm telling from my perspective that his perspective will be different from. Or like I'll get off and be like, that never happened, or it wasn't that. I don't know what he's going to say about it. I mean, we've definitely debriefed, but our perceptions might be very different. So I'm curious to see what needs corrected, or maybe I'm being too soft on some things, and he'll say, no, this part was the worst part. I don't know. We'll see. But in Numbers chapter 10, we read something kind of interesting, starting in verse 25. Then the standard of the camp of the people of Dan, acting as the rear guard of all the camps, set out by their companies. And over their company was Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. So Dan is the rear guard. We read that God sends them forth in tribes. This tribe first, this tribe next, this tribe next, the Ark of the Covenant next, this tribe next. And Dan is going to take up the rear guard. This word literally means the collector or the gatherer of the camps, meaning if people fall behind, Dan is the one that can push from the back and collect people and say, no, we have to keep going. No, we have to kind of, steering, guiding, but from the back, kind of like a rudder. They assure that there are no stragglers. But why Dan? It's kind of an obscure group, I would think. You don't hear a lot about the tribe of Dan. Sometimes you hear about them and it's not so good. But here they have a very honored position in the march through the wilderness. We read in Numbers chapter 1 that a census was taken of all the fighting men of Israel. And Judah, who was the lead tribe in this procession, had 74,600 fighting men. Dan has the second most, 62,700. So they took the greatest armies and put them at the front and at the back. As Israel made its way to the promised land, God was behind and before them, but also Judah was before and Dan was behind. They were a nation traveling to the same destination, and they had organization, and they had unity, and they had direction, and they had a plan. They looked out for each other, one tribe looking ahead, being wary of all the obstacles that could come at them from the front, keeping their eyes on that pillar that was leading them, sending back alarms and signals as were necessary. And then you had one tribe looking back, protecting from the rear guard, always watching, sending signals from the back to the front so that everybody was protected and safe and could move forward together. We can do this for each other. We are home from the Feast of Tabernacles, but we, as a unit, are still on that same journey out of Egypt into the Promised Land. The feast, as often as it reminds us of the kingdom, it should also remind us that we are still in the wilderness. We are not there yet. The feast could have been amazing for you. It could have been the best feast you've ever had in your life. It could rejuvenate and restore you, and that's wonderful. It is supposed to be a taste of that kingdom, but also a taste that doesn't completely satisfy. One that keeps you pushing forward to say, as wonderful as that was, it was not what I'm looking for in full. And there are obstacles on this journey. There are trials and there are enemies, and we need to be on guard for each other. Life is difficult often, very often. And we are, as Paul says, fighting a war against principalities and powers and rulers in the spiritual world. We are actively trying to flee from Egypt and Babylon while also bringing a mixed multitude along with us. But if we feel at any time that we're doing that by ourselves as individuals, or that we're the only ones looking out for ourselves, we will become overwhelmed because outside of us outnumbers us. Our enemies are more than we are. The obstacles are more than we are. If you're facing that by yourself, there is no chance you make it. It takes a team. It takes a group. And God has put us together to live in this time right now. I don't know how close we are to the end. I don't know how close the kingdom of God is, but I know it ends at the end of my life. And I know that right now, for this part of the journey, God has put me in Columbus, Ohio, with all of you as a team to march forward to the promised land together. And I can't do it without you. I don't want to say you can't do it without me because that's presumptuous, but you know what I mean. We can't do it without each other. God gave us each other. Sure, we are living very separate lives. Day to day, we're living separate lives. We're not literally camping out together every single night on our way into the promised land. We are not literally in a physical battle where we stand shoulder to shoulder and fight against a very physical enemy. We are not literally walking through the chaotic streets of Mumbai just praying to get back to the safety of our hotel before somebody dies. But we have been put together into one body. We do have strengths that can be used, and we all have weaknesses that need to be accounted for together. So when you notice an obstacle in someone's path, point it out or help them move it. When someone is looking tired from the march, walk with them a while, carry their pack. When someone looks afraid or uncertain of the times that we're living in, encourage them. God stands before us and he stands behind us. That's a blessing. But we can stand behind and before each other as well. And the more that we do this, the more that we learn that we can rely on each other, truly rely on each other, the safer we're going to feel, the more confident we're going to be, and the better equipped we're going to be to push forward into God's kingdom. Even though it's not literal, this life is very much like a flight out of Egypt. It is a return to the promised land. It's like a nighttime walk through the insane streets of Mumbai. And I don't want to over-dramatize it. I think we can often be guilty of that. We have good lives. We're very blessed. And in so many ways, it's a wonderful thing that we get to live life in this country with each other, and we have freedoms that we can enjoy. But we also should not get too comfortable here. This is not the destination. This is not where we should stop. A pleasant feast, as wonderful as it can be, is not the kingdom of God. And we should, in some ways, feel the threat of the enemy, the chaos of the journey, the difficulty of our situation. And we should use that to bond more closely together. Use that to practice trust in each other. Use that to look for God's provision in the people around us and also become God's provision to the people that we're around. God says, he promises that he will go before us and stand behind us. He protects us and he guides, and we can do that for each other as well.